Hey, what's up, everyone? It's John Samuel, and welcome to All Access Live. Today, we have a very special guest from all the way from Zambia. We have Emmanuel Samu, who I've got to get to know over the last several weeks and is a Nelson Mandela Fellow. So, welcome, Emmanuel. How are you?
Thank you so much, John, and I'm very fine. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for
Th-
joining me today. Uh, and I
Thank
know it's
you.
evening for you. So,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
are
it
you?
is. Yeah, I'm doing very well with the weather, very cool. It's raining somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, very fantastic.
So, where in Zambia are you?
Zambia has got 10 provinces, and I'm in one of the provinces called Northwestern Province, neighbor to Congo and Angola.
Okay, cool. And so I'd
Mhm.
love to learn more about like kind of your background and to share with folks like who is Emmanuel and if you can share kind of your childhood and kind of where how you got to where we are today having this conversation.
Okay. Thank you so much, John,
Mhm.
for giving me this opportunity to interact and discuss with you these very important matters. Of course, I know I've been interacting with you for the past 6 months. I mean, rather 6 weeks from the time I joined working with your organization. Of course, through Mandela Washington Fellowship, that is IREX. I was one of the persons that was selected to do professional development experience with your organization. Talking about myself, I'm a person with a physical disability, but not born with a disability. I was born okay, and later on I became disabled. I believe it is due to polio. Yeah, and I started crawling. I'm going to school, crawling 4 kilometers every day, going to school to ensure that I get educated. But I realized that the school system and the infrastructure of all the institutions where I went to, they were not user friendly. There were a lot of barriers that were hindering me to actually easily access education. And also living in a rural area of my country, I received a lot of discrimination among the community members because of my disability.
Mhm.
And I realized that regardless of my disability, I have the ability to change the mindset of um, my community members. I knew that I had the responsibility as a community member to bring change that will be appreciated by the generation of persons with disabilities that are coming before me. Hence, I concentrated much on education and I finished my school. I went to college. I did computer system engineering, but still I had to face a lot of challenges there because of the institutional barriers, the attitude barriers, the infrastructure which is inaccessible. But I had no other option but to focus and be determined to
Yeah.
achieve what I wanted to achieve. And this is what motivated me to come up with a non government organization that focuses on advocacy to ensure that the voice of persons with disabilities is heard. Because I believe that you cannot fix what you don't know is broken. You can only fix something that you know is broken.
Mhm.
Many people in our communities, they do not really understand the disability issues, the disability challenges. And I took it upon myself to play a role of advocacy. And that's how I came up with this NGO to ensure that I was able to engage the authority bearers, because I know we are the rights holders and we have the rights authority bearers that have been given the authority to oversee the living standards of every member of the community. And persons with disabilities are part of the society.
100%.
Yeah, so this is Emmanuel. Even now, it's not about disability, it's about ability. So I managed to be among the 700 leaders selected by United States program, which is called Mandela Washington Fellowship, which is run by IREX. And in Zambia was among the 25. So this is a motivation to other people with disabilities in my country that disability is not a barrier, but we have the ability to contribute to any development of our society.
So why do you think accessibility is where we need to start with when we talk about, bringing disability inclusion to Zambia and then the greater continent?
Okay, thank you so much, John. Like I said last time that we had this chat, despite having all the challenges that people with disabilities face, but I came to realize that accessibility is very cardinal. If we want to see the developmental success among people with disabilities, accessibility is in so many areas. We can talk about environmental accessibility. We can talk about information accessibility. We can talk about institutional, the policies that needs to support the implementation of removing these barriers. And the first thing that I consider to be the most important is accessibility. Information needs to be accessible in a format that can be understood by people who are visually impaired, the deaf, as well as the physically challenged. I can give an example, John. If the health facility is not accessible in terms of the infrastructure, it means that a person on a wheelchair or crutches, it will be very difficult for that person to access the health services because of that barrier. Another thing is why accessibility is important is, for example, a condom. A condom is put in place to prevent something like HIV and AIDS, pregnancies, and so on. But a person who is visually impaired cannot read the expiring date on that condom. Mm-hmm. So that means that in as much as you can provide condoms to the community, persons with disabilities, those with the visually impaired, can get a condom, but they are not able to know whether it is expired or not.
That's correct.
So accessibility is very important because it helps the receiver to understand what is holding in his hands. So meaning that whatever that we are doing, the information that we're giving to the public, it should be accessible to each and everybody, regardless of the status. People who are deaf, they are not able to hear, but they are able to see. Meaning that the information that should be given to them should be virtual. They need to see. That's when they'll be able to understand. So all these challenges, we are talking about accessibility. So accessibility is very important. Like what your company is doing, that innovation which Ablr is doing is very commendable, because this allows persons with disability, especially the visually impaired, to access the information easily without challenges.
No, we talked about it yesterday. Accessibility is a human right, right? And
Is it?
so,
Yeah.
right, that's exactly right. I mean, it is a human right. And so we even talk about, can you talk about like the lack of information about, COVID relief or government websites, right? Can you talk about the
Yeah.
lack of
Yeah.
digital accessibility that you've seen, on the continent itself?
Okay. Like you have rightly put it, regardless of our disability, we are human beings. And we have human rights that guide the living standard of people in our society. And accessing information is my right. Accessing health services is my right. Now, if I'm not able to access the information, that means that my rights are being infringed. That's the reason why digital accessibility is very important, because I can give you an example that Zambia has got about 21.4 million people, and 15% of the population is of that people with disabilities. And when you look at how many people access the internet services, the online services, the number is minimal, or rather, maybe I would say I don't even want to give it a percent, because we are still struggling to talk about digital inclusion.
Yeah.
Because many people are not able, they do not have the skill to use these services that allow people with disabilities to easily access the information. We talk about the emails, we talk about websites. They are not accessible to people with the visual impaired, So these are things that we need to continue advocating for. Of course, advocating with actions. It's not about writing documents, but it's about action. What are we doing as people with companies, as people with the organizations? Are we considering putting our information into accessible formats?
No.
So my goal, like I've said, is to establish an assistive technology center. And in detail, I'm able to come up, I have a work plan that is in place, looking at the stages that I'm going to take to ensure that I achieve that goal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And, I know with your determination and work ethic, you're going to do that. But, but as we start to wrap up, talking about skills, you have a unique skill yourself. You are a talented artist. And so I'd be remiss if I would end our conversation without talking about your art. And then another skill is your public speaking. And so, I hope that one of the actions you take is you do a TED Talk, and I will be there cheering you on. But I do want to spend a couple of minutes. Can you talk about even your artwork? Like, how did you get into art? What is your passion around it? And what are your hopes for that?
Yeah, like I've shared with you, I'm one person who is passionate about disability inclusion, and I'm one person who is skilled in computer systems, ICT. I use my art skill to make sure that I bring change in my community, to show people with disabilities that we are able to change the mindset of our community. I'm a book writer. I write motivational books that encourages persons with disabilities to say, hey, guys, we have the ability, we have the responsibility to work together to change the mindset. We are not the charity receivers. we don't need people to show charity, pity on us, but we can contribute to the development of our society. But the most important thing is changing the mindset of our communities.